Hey there, crafty friends. Welcome and thank you for joining me. My name is Melissa. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Southern California, and today I am going to show you how I made this card using the Lighting the Way stamp and die set. Now, this is a really neat die set because you get to make the lantern, which we will be using, and then I also used the three smallest little fireflies, and these are so cute. I just love those. So let's go ahead and get started. But before we do that, I need to announce my winner from my beautiful balloons drawing. And the winner is Avis Anderson. You are my winner. Please send me a private email with your address to handmadehugsbymelissa@gmail.com, and I will get these gems right out to you. So let's go ahead and get started. This is so cute. We are going to be doing a lot of ink blending, and my fingers got very dirty making this card, but it is super fun. So we've got our dies out. This is the stamp set, but on my sample here, I used Thanks for Lighting the Way, but we are going to change this to a birthday sentiment because when I saw this, I just knew that I wanted to make some cards for our camping friends. So that's what we are going to do. We love to go camping and we have a group that we go with. So let's get started with our ink blending first. I have a piece of Balmy Blue, and this is cut to 4 by 5 1/4. We are going to be using Mossy Meadow and Misty Moonlight. And we will be bringing in our basic border dies. I love these dies. I used the cloud die to make a stencil. You can make a stencil with any die that you have, basically. So I've made my stencil here. And then we will also be using this, but I didn't want just a straight edge. So I've scored this and folded it a whole bunch of times, and I am going to just rip this. So we can use sort of like a tattered edge, because for where my grass and my sky meet there, I didn't want just a straight perfect line. I wanted it to be a little bit rough. So let's go ahead. We've got Mossy Meadow and Misty Moonlight, and we are going to ink blend on here. So first, let's go ahead, and I've taken a little mark. I've put little marks on here approximately where I want my grass to start and where I want my grass to end and my sky to start. So let's just take this up there a little bit. I've got my blending brush, and I used a lot of ink on here. So we're going to start off and then work our way on. And it does not need to be perfect because we're going to have a lot of other detail in there. So then we can take this, we can flip it, add some more ink to our brush, and we're just going to work our way up. And then we can come down here, and we're going to use this little mark on there and the rough edge of our paper, and we're just going to kind of fill in. We're going to add some more color. Okay, so we're just going to add a little bit more color here. And I think that's probably pretty good. That looks good. Now let's bring in our Mossy Meadow. We're going to do the grassy area, And I'm just going to flip that over, and this is where I used a lot of ink. I really did. We're just going to flip that over, line it up with our paper, and add our color. And I wanted this Mossy Meadow to be really dark, and we need to use quite a bit on here because we are going over the light blue, and we want to get that green shading in there. I suppose if we started with a white piece of paper, we would use even more ink, but we are using quite a bit of ink. And I'm just going to keep adding the green on there. I think we're almost there. I think that's starting to look pretty dark. I want it to be a nighttime scene, so our little fireflies will be glowing. All right, that's pretty good. I think that's real good because we will cover up. I got a little smudge there. I think it was in the paper because I noticed it right away. But I think we'll end up covering that up with our lantern. So let's set this aside now. Now what we need to do is we are going to, let's put this, we're going to need to ink blend again. Let's put that over there and put together our lantern and our fireflies. Now I did pre-do 2 of them. And what I've done was I used the 3 dies and I cut out 3 in the green and I cut out 3 in gold. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a little surgery. And I also cut out 2 of my lantern. I've got 1 in the gold paper. We have an extra piece of paper hanging on there. We've got 1 in the gold. And then we've got 1 in Mossy Meadow. This is Mossy Meadow. My fireflies I actually did in our retired evening evergreen. I just love that green. I wanted them to be just a little bit darker. And the evening evergreen actually matches that Mossy Meadow on that Balmy Blue really well. So we've got our Mossy Meadow lantern here, and we're going to trim it apart. Because, actually we're going to trim apart our gold one, because we're going to make it a 2-tone lantern. So first of all, we can take the top piece off here, and we're just going to trim it. Don't be afraid to paper piece with your dies. If you want the die to, the image to be like 2-tone, don't be afraid to do this. I love paper piecing things. All right, so now we need the bottom. Just like that. And sometimes you have to kind of go back in and give it a little trim just to get that cut a little cleaner. And now we will go ahead and cut our sides. So this is pretty easy. You just follow that curve on the die. There are little kind of hash marks in there, so it's really super easy to follow and make those cuts. You can see there's a little hash mark right there, and that's cut through. So all I have to do is the little edges, the little hash mark there. We're just going to follow those and cut right through. Just like that. There we go. And then which piece did I use? I also used the little piece on top and then the center piece. So let's get those cut out. Super easy to just follow those lines. We haven't been camping in so long. We really need to go. We haven't seen any of our camping friends. We have just been so busy with so much going on, and I feel horrible. for not reaching out and seeing how everybody is doing. All right, there we go. And one of our camping people has a July birthday, so I will be sending him this card for his birthday. I'm just trimming that up there. I think that looks pretty good. And now we can attach our pieces. Super simple. Oh, and we are going to do the same thing with our firefly there, but you know what? Let's do this first. So I'm just going to take my fine tip glue bottle here. I've got my Tombow in there. I'm just going to put a couple dots of glue all around. Then we can add this piece. Just like that. We used our liquid glue so we can move it around if we need to. That's good. Then let's do our other middle piece. And just make sure you get just a little dot of glue in those corners. You don't want your edges to lift at all. So that should be pretty good. Let's get this one on there. And this is so simple. The only reason I did the die cutting beforehand is because I don't think you guys want to watch me do that. That gets kind of boring. Sometimes it's therapeutic, but I don't want to have to put you through that. You guys all pretty much know how to die cut, and if you don't, if you have issues of any kind with any dies, just send me an email and I can help figure it out for you. You know, sometimes certain dies are harder to go through the machine and get a good clean cut. Sometimes you just need to add a shim or use a new plate. I have found if I'm having a problem with a certain die, if I just use a new plate, it will actually end up cutting very nicely. So let's go ahead and keep adding our pieces here. And there you go. Our little lantern is all put together. So now we just need to make our light that goes behind the lantern. We're just going to ink blend that, and I used Daffodil Delight for that. So what I did just to make my shape was I've got a piece of scratch paper here, and I've got ink on my finger. I've just got a piece of scratch paper, and I'm just going to cut out the shape. So I'm just going to draw, I'm going to trace. I'm just going to trace around this so I can see where to cut so I can make it the same size as my lantern. And we need to come in a little bit because if you look at the die, you can see the cutting portion of the die is actually in a little bit from our outline there. So we're going to bring this in. We're just going to trim, and we'll do a fit before we glue it down or ink blend it, just to make sure that it does fit on there, and see if we need to cut any extra off. All right, so let's check. I think we need a little bit more off of the top. Let's check that again. And you can flip it over and place that on there to see how that will fit. I think that's pretty good. Maybe just a little bit more here. And a little bit more over here. Oh yeah, that's better. Okay, so now let's bring in our Daffodil Delight and our scrap paper. Let's fold that in half so we don't get blue or green ink on here. And what we are going to do is we are just going to kind of figure out where the center of that light would be shining through from. And that's where we're going to start. So we're going to just start right in the middle and make that middle extra, extra dark with Daffodil Delight. Because we want that light to shine through. I told you it was messy. I've got blue on my fingernails and now I've got Daffodil Delight on my fingernails. But that's okay. There we go. Make that a little bit darker right in that center. Then when we place our lantern on top, it looks like it's glowing. I think I want a little bit darker towards that bottom area, down towards here. That should be good. And now we can attach this to our lantern. Let me wipe off my fingers first. So now we're just going to flip this over, add some glue, and that will be all ready. I had to think about that for a minute, how far our piece went and where to put our glue. And then on this little larger area right there in the middle and right there, I'm just going to put an extra little dot just to make sure that stays attached. There we go, just like that. And there is our lantern. Isn't that cute? I just love that. That is so adorable. So now let's go ahead and do our firefly. I already did 2 of them. I got 2 of them ready. And we're just going to trim him. Let me get my brushes out of the way here. We're just going to bring in our scissors. And the first thing I did was cut off his antennas so they didn't get in the way when I was trying to trim it. And I'm just going to try and follow that line. I'm just going to do a curve up his body. Just curve it just with my scissors so we can get his little bum. Fireflies glow out their bum, and we want that piece to fit on the other one nicely. There we go. And then I just cut it off. There are lines on here, embossed lines, and I just cut it off at the very first line. I tried making one a little bit longer and it just didn't look right. So I cut it off at that very first line. We are going to just put a little bit of glue on his bum on the evening evergreen piece and then attach this. And that is so cute. His little bum is glowing. Just like that. That's adorable. Okay, so now, hopefully, our ink blended piece has dried a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I am going to hit this with the heat gun just to make sure it's a little bit drier, because we put a lot of ink on there and we are going to heat emboss our sentiment. And that should be a little bit drier, but we are still going to use a lot of powder on this. Okay, so what I've done here is I've got my sentiment in there, and like I said, we are doing a birthday card for this one. And I've gone ahead and I've used our Wildlife Wonder Sending Birthday Wishes. And because this is a red rubber stamp, I had to take out the foam mat. So let's bring in our Versamark, but not yet. We need to powder this up. And when I say powder it up, I mean powder it up. Don't rub your bag on there, just kind of tap it. And we're getting a lot of powder on there because I do not want the embossing powder to stick where we don't want it. So now we can ink up our sentiment. I left this other stamp on here because we will also be using that one. So let's ink our sentiment. That paper is up in the corner. We got a pretty good impression. I'm going to do it again. I think maybe one more time with our Versamark here. Just our sticky watermark ink. Perfect. Okay, so now let's bring in our white embossing powder. And let's get some powder on that. And that's good. Let's go ahead and let that cool off before we wipe that powder off. So now we are going to bring in our other stamp. I'm going to set that one aside. Let's let that cool off a second. That should be good. Now, when we wipe this off, all that powder disappears. So that's perfect. So let's go ahead and we're going to put this in here, and I'm not butting it up. So I am going to make sure that I use both of my magnets. I do not want this to move. So we're going to use both of our magnets. So that's nice and secure. Let's bring in our lantern, figure out where we're going to place that. I think right about there looks good. And then, oh, you know what we forgot? I need to put that foam mat back in because we are using a photopolymer stamp. So let's put that foam mat back in there. Bring this back. Use our magnets, both of them. We're going to put this right there. You know what? And we need a piece of paper because we are going to stamp off. So let's bring in a piece of paper and start again. All right, there we go. We are just going to get that in there nice and secure. Figure out where we want this and then bring in our stamp. And I'm using the Stamparatus because I want this Mossy Meadow ink to be super dark. I think that looks good right there. Pick that up. Bring back in our Mossy Meadow. And we are going to ink this like 3 or 4 times because I want it really, really dark. We are stamping on that Misty Moonlight, which is a dark color, not real dark, but it is a little bit darker, especially since we did all that ink blending on the Balmy Blue paper. It made the Misty Moonlight just a little bit darker. So let's go ahead and do that one more time and see how we like that. You know what? One more time. I think I did each branch like 4 times on my sample, just because I wanted to make sure it was nice and dark. So let's clean this off and reposition. And we will bring this back in. Let's go over here and do this side. You know, I think that's probably pretty good. I don't want to go down any farther because our fireflies are going to go up in there. So I think that's good. Let's clean our stamp off. I always have a rag on my lap or right next to me. That's good. And I just use my Stampin' Mist. I go through quite a bit of that. Let's get that off of there. Take this out. Oh, that one's stuck on my table. Goodness. Okay. And now we can put the card together. This is going to be so cute. You know, sometimes you have a stamp set that you really like and you struggle. The idea that you had just does not come out the way you wanted it to. But that was not the case with this stamp set. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And on my very first sample, it actually came out pretty good. I did change the colors up just a little bit for our card today. So now we need a small little piece of foam strip here. And I thought I had one already cut, but apparently not. So we're just going to get a little piece. I've already got dimensionals behind my other guys here. So we're just going to go ahead and add some to this guy that we just did. And I just put it behind his wings. A piece on each wing. Just like that. And then a little piece on his bum. Please be sure to like and comment on this video. I would appreciate it. YouTube just loves comments. So I've got my A2 size top folding card. I already prepped a piece of foam, cut a little bit smaller than my panel. I'm just going to attach that because I like dimension on my cards. I really do. So now we can add our lantern, and we're just going to put a whole bunch of dimensionals behind here. There we go. We can bring this down, and I think right about there looks good. That is perfect. And then we'll do the same thing for our little fireflies. We can put these any way we want. I'm going to put 2 on the right hand side, and I will put 1 on the left hand side, just like that. It was sticking too much. All right, now to add our panel to our card base. And I just used tear and tape on the back of my foam. There we go, perfect. Bring in our bone folder, just get a good crease on there. And now we can add our embellishments. So for my embellishments here, I used the, what are they? They say red and green adhesive backed pearls here, but in the catalog and online, they are actually called Festive Pearls. So I'm just using the gold. And I think I added quite a few here, actually. I think I added, wow, 2, 4, 6. I added 9 over there. I just filled in the empty spaces is what I had wanted to do, just to fill it in. We can put one up there. Let's do one over here. That's already 5. They add up so quickly. One right there. I was kind of hoping for the illusion of other fireflies in the background with the gold pearls. I don't know if that's how it looks, but I liked it. All right, there we go. And we are done. Oh my gosh, that was so easy. Just a little time consuming and a little messy with the ink blending, but that came out super cute. So when I came up with the idea, this was my first one, and I used silver foil for my lantern, and I silver heat embossed, and I thought that that was just a little bit too hard to see. And for my little fireflies, I didn't use the silver paper. I used Daffodil Delight, and I like it. Not my favorite, but I like it. It still came out cute. And then my my sample I showed you today is what we just completed. Only we did the sending birthday wishes. So please give me a thumbs up. Please leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought. And I will see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.